Have you ever driven out of town with a big group on a Friday night? The car is packed to the brim, someone has already cracked open a beer in the back seat, and the playlist is changing every 2 minutes because everyone has different tastes and no one wants to give in. That's how it all started. There were 8 of us, and we were happy. Genuinely, ridiculously happy. Sophie, my girlfriend, we've been together for 3 years, was sitting next to me, resting her head on my shoulder. Nicola, my friend from university, was a history teacher who lectured on medieval superstitions with the same gleam in his eye that others reserved for football. He was in the front seat, already rambling about a local fortress burned down in the 15th century and various local legends. Max was driving, shouting out the open window, "Nicola, shut the hell up! We're on vacation!" Victoria and Elena were laughing in the back. They'd been that way since the 1st grade, always together, always laughing at the same private jokes. Maria sat quietly by the window, watching the woods and toying with the amber beads on her wrist. Roman, our resident prankster, pulled out his phone and started acting like a reality show host. "All right, 8 people, 3 days without internet. Who's gonna survive?" "Bite your tongue," Maria said. "Superstitious," Roman chuckled. "It's just a joke." She didn't smile back. Maria was the kind of person who could sense when a place felt wrong. Long before anything actually happened, I was keeping a log on my phone. It's a stupid habit, recording everything. Voice memos, quick notes. Sophie used to laugh at it. "You're like a journalist, but only for your own life," she'd say. I'd tell her I just wanted to remember the good moments. Now, I have that log. It's all there. Every smile, every word, every moment. And I can go back and relive it all in my memory as many times as I want. We found the perfect clearing. Small, near a creek, a kilometer off the dirt road. The old pines stood around us like pillars in an abandoned cathedral. Tall, silent, and indifferent. The air smelled of pine needles and damp earth. The silence was so heavy it rang in my ears. We set up the trailer, got the grill going, and opened some beers. Nicola found a spot with reception and tried to download a documentary, but the signal dropped before he could finish. Max said it was for the best. Roman suggested a game of Mafia, and everyone agreed. The downpour started around 6 p.m. I know that because I logged it. First, it just got dark. Fast. Unnaturally so, as if someone had slammed a lid over the sky. Then, the air smelled like ozone. And then, the water came down in a wall. Not drops, a deluge, like a pipe had burst somewhere up above. Within 20 minutes, the dirt road was a river of mud. Max tried to drive out, but the car was hopelessly stuck. We all got out, pushing and cursing, soaked to the bone. But it was useless. "Fine," Max said, wiping mud across his face. "We'll wait out the night. It'll dry in the morning and we'll get out." We headed back inside. 8 people in a 20-square-meter trailer with a wall of water outside. The rain drummed on the roof, monotonous, almost soothing. We lit candles, opened some cans, and someone pulled out a deck of cards. Victoria went out around 8. She said she wanted to gather some firewood while the rain slowed down so we could start a bonfire later. She came back 20 minutes later, soaked, with twigs in her hair and a wooden idol in her hands. It was small, maybe 15 centimeters, carved from dark, ancient wood. It was human-like, but not quite. The body was right, but the arms were too long. The face was featureless, just a smooth surface where the eyes and mouth should have been, and around its neck was a cord made of woven roots. "Where did you find it?" Nicola asked, immediately perking up. "Under a rock by an old stump." Victoria placed the idol on the table. It looked like it had been left there on purpose. "Throw it back," Maria said, quiet but firm. "We don't need that here." "Oh, come on," Roman said, picking it up. "It's an antique. We can sell it to a pawn shop later." Everyone laughed. But Maria didn't. She looked at the idol the way you look at a stranger's dog, distrustful, not wanting to show her fear. Nicola took the figure, turned it over, and shook his head. Such specific carving. Definitely old work. Not a souvenir. A ritual object, maybe. "Great," Max said. "We'll decorate." They placed the idol on the table by the window. It stood there all evening, silent, faceless, turning its smooth, blind countenance toward us. Victoria went out for some air around 11. "It's stifling in here," she said, opening the door. "I'll be 5 minutes." "It's raining," I reminded her. "Yeah, it's almost stopped." The door closed. 5 minutes passed. 10. 20. The rain picked up. Roman fell asleep in his chair, and Max was nodding off over the cards. Alina looked at the door. Once, twice, 3 times. "She's taking a long time." "Let's call her," I said, reaching for my phone. Then I remembered there was no signal in this godforsaken place. Another 15 minutes passed. Everyone had stopped pretending not to be worried. And then, a knock at the door. Not someone entering, but a knock. Polite, like a stranger. Nicola opened it. Victoria stood on the threshold, drenched, her dark hair plastered to her forehead. She had a smile on her face, quiet, almost blissful. "Where have you been?" Alina jumped up. "We were about to go looking for you." Victoria walked in, went to her seat, and sat down. The smile didn't fade. "Just walking," she said. "An hour in the rain. I like the rain." Alina stood in front of her, watching. Then she took a step closer, leaned in as if to whisper something, and suddenly stopped. "Oleg," she called out softly. "Come here." I walked over. Look at her cheek. Victoria sat with that same quiet smile, hands folded on her lap. "So? It's a birthmark. Victoria has a birthmark on her left cheek, right?" I looked at her right cheek. My heart did something strange, as if it skipped a beat. But I convinced myself everything was fine. My brain is playing tricks on us. You know how it is. Right, left, everything gets mixed up. Alina looked at me warily, then at Victoria, and said nothing. I wrote in my log. Victoria returned. Strange, silent, must be cold. I went to bed around midnight, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain. I wish I'd known I shouldn't have slept. Max went out first around 6 a.m. with a shovel to try and dig the car out. He returned 4 minutes later, without the shovel, his face pale as paper. He opened the door, sat on the threshold, and didn't say a word for a long time. "Max?" Sophie sat up on the sofa. "It's Victoria," he finally said. We all rushed out, not bothering to dress, still in our sleepwear. The rain was still falling. The morning forest was gray, wet, and cold. The grass was knee-high, every blade heavy with water. She was lying behind some trees, 30 meters from the trailer, just off the path. On her back, arms at her sides, eyes closed, no visible wounds, as if she'd just fallen asleep on the ground. Nicola knelt beside her, took her wrist, and held it for a long time. He looked up. "She's freezing. Been out here for hours, probably." Hours. I turned and looked at the trailer, at the window where the other Victoria had probably just woken up. Something inside me shuddered. Panic is always sudden and relentless. Max started screaming, something incoherent, slamming his fist into a tree. Maria sobbed aloud, burying her face in her hands. Elena slumped to the ground, leaning against a trunk. Roman stood off to the side with the expression of a man who had run out of words. Sophie grabbed my sleeve. "Oleg, look at me." I looked at her, then saw her eyes drift toward the trailer. "What's inside? Is it Victoria?" She finished for me. We went back slowly, as if our bodies didn't want to move. Victoria was sitting in her spot, smiling, watching us enter. "What happened?" she asked. "Why are you all so pale?" "Who are you?" Elena asked. Her voice was flat, almost dead. "I'm Victoria," she said. Simply, calmly. "No, Victoria is dead. We just saw her body." Not a muscle moved on that face. "You're just scared," the thing said. "That's normal. The forest always scares people." Max took a step forward,
but I jumped between them. "Stop! Let go, Oleg! This... Stay back, Max! Stay back!" I held him with both arms, and he leaned on me with his full weight. I knew I couldn't hold him for long. "Nikola! Nikola! Tell him!" Nikola stood by the table. He was staring at the wooden idol. He raised his eyes to us, and there was something in his gaze that made me feel colder than the morning air. "The Wanderer," he said quietly. "What?" Roman asked.
The Wanderer. Nikola spoke slowly, as if pulling every word from an abyss. It's a forest spirit, a parasite. I read about it in ethnographic notes from the 19th century, about the beliefs of the indigenous people of this region. They called it various names: the Wanderer, the Forest Thief, the Empty Spirit. It lives in old, deep forests. Every few years, it needs a new shell. It's bound to an object, a prison, or perhaps an amulet. He looked at the idol. When someone takes the amulet, the spirit wakes up. It chooses a victim, kills them, and takes their place. "Nikola," Maria whimpered. "It doesn't just steal the body, it steals everything. Memory, voice, habits. It becomes the victim completely." Nikola paused. "Almost completely." "What do you mean, almost?" Sophie asked quietly. "There is only one thing it cannot do. According to the legend, it cannot lie about its nature. If you ask it a direct question, without tricks, it cannot answer no. It cannot say, 'I am not a wanderer.' It's a taboo hardwired into it. It can lie about anything else, but not about what it truly is." Everyone was silent. Victoria sat across from us, smiling. "So," Roman said slowly, "if we ask it directly, it won't be able to answer, or it will dodge the question. But it won't say no." "Then we hold an interrogation," Sophie said. Max laughed, a short, sharp, nervous bark. "Wanderers? Legends? What kind of garbage are you talking about? A murder happened. Our friend was killed. Maybe I should just beat the truth out of her with my boot. That'll be faster than sitting here listening to fairy tales." "And what if you do?" Sophie asked. "What if it really is a spirit, and it doesn't feel pain the way we do? And if it is Victoria, he'll just maim a living person." "Victoria is dead," Max snapped. "I saw the body. I checked the pulse." "Max," I grabbed his arm. "Sit down, please. Let's let Nikola finish." He sat down heavily, like a sack of sand, never taking his eyes off Victoria. We moved the sofas and chairs into a circle. 8 seats. Now there were 7, and one of them was occupied by something that had come from the woods in the body of our friend. Victoria sat where she was told, obediently, without protest. The smile never left her face. "Right," said Nikola. "Let's start." Nikola explained the rules. Everyone speaks in turn. One question. Are you a wanderer? You can rephrase it, but it has to be direct, unambiguous. I looked at everyone in turn, people I had known for years, and thought, one of you could be an imposter. One of you is looking at me right now and thinking the exact same thing. We had all become suspects in our own group. The air in the trailer grew thick with shallow breathing, fear, and the smell of wet clothes. Outside, the rain didn't stop for a second. Nikola went first, precise and teacherly. "I'm Dmitry Kravtsov, 30 years old, history teacher. I am not a wanderer." A pause. Calm, confident. No one said anything. Sophie was next. She didn't wait to be asked. She stood up, looked at everyone, and spoke as if taking an oath. "I'm Sophie, 27. I've been with Anton for 3 years. I'm scared, and I want to go home. I am not a wanderer." She exhaled. I squeezed her hand. "Maria."
She was crying softly. No sound, just tears rolling down her cheeks. She looked up from the floor. "I'm Maria. I'm very scared." Her voice broke. "I am not a wanderer. I'm me." Max got up without waiting for his turn. "Enough of this circus." He crossed his arms and glared at Nicola. "I'm Max Badov, 28. If anyone thinks I'm not human, say it to my face. I'm not a monster, not a wanderer, period." He sat down. Elena answered without looking up from the table. "I'm Elena. I've been Victoria's friend since first grade." Her voice trembled. "I'm human. I am not a wanderer." Roman fidgeted, looked around, then grinned, completely inappropriately. "Well, maybe I am a wanderer? Came out of the woods and took over the company's best comedian?" "Roman," I said. Yeah, just kidding." He stopped smiling almost immediately, like a light switch had been flipped. It was nerves. "I'm Maxim Orlov, 29. I am not a wanderer. I swear on anything you want." A reflexive, quiet, nervous laugh rippled through the circle. Not a real laugh, just a reflex. I named myself last. "I'm Oleg, 29. I looked at Victoria. "I am not a wanderer." Then everyone looked at her. Victoria sat there, smiling, hands folded on her lap, too neatly, too symmetrically. Victoria never sat like that. She always crossed her legs, gestured when she spoke, played with things in her hands.
"Victoria," Nicholas said, his voice level. "Your turn. Answer us. Are you human?" That stupid smile. "I am me." "That's not an answer." Nicola didn't budge. "I'll ask differently. Are you a wanderer?" Silence. The kind that exists between an inhale and an exhale, between life and what comes after. The rain outside continued to beat against the trailer, but I couldn't hear it anymore. I only heard the thumping of my own heart. Then, Victoria's face changed, not sharply, but gradually. The smile remained, but something behind it shifted, as if a mask were sliding by a millimeter. Imperceptible to those not looking, but I was watching closely. She said nothing. 5 seconds. 10. 15. "Are you a wanderer or not?" Nicola repeated, quietly. The silence stretched like resin, heavy, alive. Maria began to tremble. Max gripped the armrest of the sofa so hard it creaked. His knuckles were white. Then Victoria opened her mouth and said nothing. She just opened and closed it. Max jumped up before anyone could react. He threw his whole body at her, 100 kilos of anger and fear, and they crashed to the floor. A roar, a crunch of something breaking. I jumped in after him, not to help, but to stop it. But it was too late. Victoria lifted him, literally lifted him with one hand, like a child. Max weighed 90 or 100 kilos, and she held him as if he were weightless. She threw him against the wall. He hit the cabinet and slid to the floor. Then she started to scream. Not in a woman's voice, not in Maria's, not in any human voice. It was a sound that had no equivalent in anything living. Deep, resonant, as if something enormous were vibrating inside a body that was too small. The windows of the trailer shook and cracked. Maria covered her ears. I felt the sound passing through my chest, not from outside, but from within, as if my own ribs were resonating with it. Max got up, pulled out his knife, the hunting knife he always bragged about. A man has to be ready for anything. He jumped again, and this time, Victoria didn't have time. 1 strike, 2. The scream cut off. Silence returned, but a different one. Heavy, like a coffin lid. A body with our friend's face lay on the floor. Max stood over it, breathing heavily, the knife in his hand. "That's it," he said. "End of that thing." We stared, but no one moved. Maria asked quietly, Is it all over?" Nicola nodded, slowly, and uncertainly. I looked at the idol on the table, the smooth wooden face without eyes, and thought, quite irrationally, for no reason, that it looked exactly the same as it had an hour ago. Nothing had changed. There was no sense of relief in the air, no decompression, no feeling of safety. Only the rain and the silence. I wrote in the log, blank destroyed. We are alive. Seems like. I added seems like on autopilot. I didn't even understand why. An hour or so passed. We moved the bodies outside and covered them with a tarp. No one wanted to look. Max was washing the knife in the sink. Nicholas sat with his eyes closed, lips moving silently, either praying or repeating something to keep from losing his mind. Maria lay on the sofa, facing the wall. Roman sat in the corner, silent. Roman was silent. I didn't notice it immediately. At some point I looked up and realized I hadn't heard his voice for 20 minutes. For Roman, even in a situation like this, 20 minutes of silence was like a year of fasting for a monk. He never stayed quiet. He could crack jokes during a fire, he could make witty remarks at a funeral, but now he just sat. He sat by the window, looking at us, not smiling, but his hands were on his lap, neatly, symmetrically, just like Victoria's. A chill ran down my back, slowly, like ice water along my spine. When Roman had gone outside earlier, I strained my memory but couldn't be sure. During the interrogation, he was here. During the fight, too. But in between, while we were moving the bodies, while Max was washing the knife, was there a minute where he could have slipped out? Alina noticed before I did. She turned to him and asked very calmly, "Roman, is that you?" He looked at her and didn't answer. My heart skipped a beat, then started thumping in my throat. I wanted to say something rational, that there was an explanation, that he was just tired or in shock. But inside, I already knew. Inside, I'd understood a long time ago. There was more than one wanderer. Or, while we were killing Victoria, it had managed to get out and choose another victim, returning in a new shell. It could have switched bodies before we stopped it. And we didn't check. We didn't check everyone afterward. We thought we'd won. We'd let our guard down. "Roman," I said. "Answer the question." Silence. Max looked at Roman, then at the knife in his hand. He hadn't put it away yet. "No," I said. "Oleg, no. Max, stop. We have to ask correctly." "We have to? Why?" Max asked. "He's silent. It's obvious." "Roman," Nicholas said, rising from his seat very quietly. "Are you a wanderer?" Roman slowly turned his head, looked at Nicola, and smiled. Not the smile Roman usually had, wide, a little goofy, with a squint, but a quiet, symmetrical one. And then Max lunged. He didn't manage 2 steps before Roman stood up. His movements were so fast that I only saw the result. Max doubled over. 1 strike to the chest, just 1, and he fell, never to rise again. "Max!" Maria screamed. Nicola rushed toward him, stood in front of them with his arms out, as if that could help. The thing lunged at them, and Nicola took a blow to the shoulder. A crunch, a short cry, and he flew into the corner. Maria shrieked. "Sophie," I grabbed her hand. "To the back of the trailer, fast!" We ran to the far end. There was a tiny kitchen separated by a narrow corridor. I pulled Sophie in and slammed the door, leaning my back against it.
wood was thin. It wouldn't hold. Behind the door, footsteps. Slow, confident, like someone who knew they were in no hurry. I looked around. Sophie was staring at me. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She just watched, and in her eyes was something I couldn't decipher. Trust. Even in this hell, she believed I would protect her. I saw a red fire extinguisher on the wall, heavy, metallic. I ripped it from the bracket. Oleg, Sophie whispered. That won't kill it. The first one died from a knife, I said, so they are vulnerable. The footsteps behind the door stopped. Silence. A few seconds later, the door began to open slowly. I struck first. The door swung wide, and I slammed the extinguisher into whatever was behind it. Into the face, the head. Once, again, and again. Metal met bone with a dull, sickening sound I will never forget. The thing that had been pretending to be Roman fell to the floor. I kept hitting until I couldn't hold the extinguisher anymore, until my arms wouldn't obey and started to cramp, until that bastard stopped twitching. Then I just stood there, breathing through my mouth, looking at what lay on the floor in a pool of blood, wearing the face of a man I'd known for 9 years.
Sophie took my hand from behind. "It's over," she said. "It's over, Oleg. It's all right." I looked around the trailer. 4 bodies. The real Victoria outside under the tarp. The copy there. Max by the far wall, motionless, eyes closed. And the thing that had been Roman at my feet. Maria sat in the corner, alive, clutching her shoulder. Nikolai climbed up slowly, groaning through the pain. But he got up. The survivors. Me, Sophie, Maria, and Nikolai. I opened the log, stared at the screen for a long time. Then, with fingers leaving bloody smudges, I typed one word. 1. And a question mark. Because something quiet and rational, the same part of me I'd trusted all my life, wouldn't let me erase that sign. Dawn soon arrived. Gray, wet, devoid of triumph. The rain didn't stop. It just grew quieter, almost gentle. Sophie slept with her head on my shoulder. I didn't sleep. I watched the wooden idol that was still on the table. Smooth face, long arms, the root cord around its neck. I thought, I should have thrown it away, burned it, buried it, anything. But I didn't move. I couldn't take my eyes off it. Around 6, when the storm had completely died down, Nikolai finally managed to reach for help. Maria's phone caught a signal when we climbed onto the roof of the trailer. 2 hours later, rescuers and police arrived. Strangers, unfamiliar, and because of that, seeming unbearably normal. A guy in an orange vest asked if we were okay, if we needed any more help. I didn't know how to answer. Sophie woke up when she heard voices outside. She opened her eyes, looked at me. In her gaze there was so much. Exhaustion, pain, and something that looked like relief. Alive. We're both alive. I took her hand and asked, "Are you Sophie?" She looked at me for a long, drawn-out second and answered, "Yes." I exhaled and closed my eyes. We had survived. We made it out. This is the end. Outside, the trailer door opened. Gray morning light flooded in, real and alive. I stood up, offered Sophie my hand, and we walked to the door. She stopped on the threshold, just stopped in the doorway, looked outside, at the trees, the wet grass, the people in orange vests, and didn't step across. She didn't make any move forward. I watched her, and she stood there, looking out, and smiling. Quietly, symmetrically. The world around me stopped. It slowly, inevitably flipped over, like a page you're reading and already know how it ends, but you turn it anyway. She had answered yes to the question, "Are you Sophie?" She answered yes. And then I understood why. Because the wanderer was now Sophie. Too much time had passed. It hadn't lied. It couldn't have lied about its nature. But it could have become anyone given enough time. And it had become her. So that the answer yes became the truth. But when, exactly? While I was sleeping next to her that night? While we were hiding in the kitchen? While I was smashing that fucker with the extinguisher? Where was the moment she stopped being herself? Why didn't I feel it? Now it was her. It had taken her place. And when I asked for it, that was the truth. It didn't break the rules. It bypassed them. And I didn't notice because I didn't want to see it. Because it was Sophie. My Sophie. 3 years together. Her warm hands. Her red, teary eyes. I stood there and couldn't believe it. Sophie turned to me. Her smile changed. Now it was the one she'd always had. Oleg. Her voice. Absolutely, perfectly hers. It's all right, honey. We made it. I stood there. The fire extinguisher lay behind my back. Empty. Crushed. Max's knife was somewhere on the floor in the blood. Outside, people in orange vests were walking around, suspecting nothing. I didn't do anything. I just stood there, looked at her, and couldn't. I couldn't because it was Sophie's face, Sophie's voice. And somewhere inside this thing that had taken her place lived all the memories of the two of us. Every conversation, every night we spent together, every morning. The Wanderer lived in that and stepped out with her smile. They got us out, took our statements. Maria and Nicola were taken to the hospital. Me too, like Sophie. She walked beside me, holding my hand. I let her. I thought we had won, but we had lost the moment we found that damn amulet. It was already over when I decided I was capable of distinguishing the real from the unreal. That logic was a defense. That if you hold someone's hand and the hand is warm, it means it's a person.
Now I know the Wanderer is still alive, and it wears the face of the woman I loved. It walks around the city with her ID, sleeps in our apartment, answers her calls. But I can't say goodbye to it. Even knowing the truth, I can't let her go. Her memory, her thoughts, it all still lives as long as this creature lives. I don't know when it took her place. I don't know if it was that night, or the morning, or perhaps even earlier. I think about it every morning when I wake up. It's too late to ask now, because she has become her, and the answer yes will be the truth. Sometimes I wonder if there's only one such creature. I wonder if I'm even real myself after that night. I want to ask myself that question, but I realize the answer doesn't mean anything anymore.